This
So you're like,
conference will now be recorded.
okay, so you're just like an admin doing like HR related activities in Workday.
Yeah,
Okay, makes sense.
and security as well.
Okay. All right, I think we need to wait for 2 more minutes. So let's wait, and then I can give my introduction after the third participant's introduction, and then we can get started.
In the meantime, do you mind displaying the curriculum?
Oh yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
It's very small. Can you
Yeah, I will enlarge it.
make it full screen?
Is it fine now?
Yeah, better.
Okay, so if you want to go through the content, just I'll
Then if
keep
you
it on
can
this.
go ahead, okay? He'll go through the recording. He's facing some issue. You can go ahead, okay?
Okay, fine. All right. So before me going through the recording, through this kind of an this training content. So let me introduce myself. Myself Dhanush, and I have almost like 18 years of work experience, and then almost like 12 years into Workday, and then the remaining into Oracle. So I've started with the Oracle, and then I got cross-trained into Workday, and then I'm an certified into Workday as an implementer, and then I do all kind of an implementation projects, support projects, so all kind of an like merger and acquisition projects, so all kind of an projects, and then I'm kind of an leading a team as well as I'm the head of the training department in my organization. Okay. Yeah, so this is all about me. So before we start, so do you have any questions like Barnali or Sneha, like what are your expectations for this training and what you actually wanted to learn? And I know like why you wanted to learn Workday, but what are you actually looking for?
As I mentioned, I am exploring more into the side of configuration as well
Yeah.
as reporting and analytics in that sphere.
Okay.
So I'll just wait for your demo to be done so that if I have any further question, I can ask accordingly.
Okay, sure. And Barnal, you're based out of?
I'm in US.
You are in US. Okay, good. And Sneha, do you have any specific questions?
Anush, I wanted to build my career in HR after a
Okay.
long career gap.
Mhm.
So I'm very new I know nothing about Workday, but simply that
Mhm.
I know that Workday is related to HR.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
That,
And you're based out of Sneha?
I live in North Carolina.
Okay, you're also based out of US.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good. All right. So first, let me introduce this. What is Workday? So I'll just give a small introduction. Maybe Barnali knows about it, but for the sake of Sneha, as I feel that Sneha is very
Yeah.
in a very initial stage of understanding Workday and about this HCM and all. But I'll just give you a very small introduction. So like when okay, I'll just go back. Let's say like 30 years back. Okay, and then let's say like when an organization wants to, let's say like a Tata company, so they have set up everything, and then they have their organization, they wanted to they have employees, they have hired employees manually, and then let's say they're paying employees. Now let's say their organization slowly started growing. Let's say now initially they were like 20, 30 people. Now let's say now they were like 500 people. Now managing everything manually makes everything difficult, right? Even in our day-to-day things, so anything in manual is difficult. So that's where the products kind of started saying that they wanted to have everything in one particular system. Okay, so let's say now somebody came up with some HR product, and then they said like, okay, now you can do hiring through this particular product. Okay, some custom product. So they started doing the hiring process through that product. Now let's say they wanted to have something like in leave management. Now for that they are dependent on another product. So now again either manual or another second product. Now they bought a second product, and then they are trying to manage the leaves. Now they wanted to do something kind of benefits. Okay, now third product benefits, fourth product payroll, kind of an, so fifth product something like talent and performance. So this way, those time the organizations used to depend, because the employees are also huge, so they used to have multiple products. So for maintaining multiple products, they used to hire multiple HR related people. Okay, to manage like 500 employees, they have to hire at least like 20 HR people in order to manage those 500 people. Okay, now when that got crossed away, then there were kind of an evolution called ERP, enterprise resource planning. So when this ERP came into the picture, then their daily needs got very very helpful. For example, let's say Oracle came into the picture as an ERP product. Now what Oracle said is, okay, Tata, like you don't need to go to different products, so we put everything into one particular software. That is nothing but an ERP. So you can hire an employee in Oracle, you can do the absence management, you can do the time tracking, you can do the talent and performance, you can do the payroll. So you can do any employee related thing in Oracle, which is an ERP. Okay, at that time it is an standard ERP, Oracle. So now that means whenever a client has to go and implement that particular product, they used to buy an application. Also, they used to buy a server. So they used to have two things, which is very, very cost bearing thing. So that way the ERP evolution started. And when it comes to like 2000s and all, then with Oracle there came another product called PeopleSoft. I hope you guys have already know about this particular term, PeopleSoft. So PeopleSoft came into the picture, and then when they started doing their business, when they started releasing their own software, then the clients felt this particular PeopleSoft is very, very flexible, because they were able to do things very easily compared to Oracle. And then I've worked on both the products. Okay, so clients also felt like, okay, PeopleSoft is more flexible. Then what happened, like Oracle thought, okay, this particular PeopleSoft is doing very good in the market, so why don't we buy this particular product? Okay, so they bought PeopleSoft. Now the people who came up, who developed or who created that particular software, so they sold this particular product called PeopleSoft to Oracle. They came out, and then they have started a business or a product or an application called Workday. Okay, so Workday, previously, if you see, that's a PeopleSoft product. So what they thought is, okay, they have used so many similar features what they've used in PeopleSoft in Workday, but that PeopleSoft is bought by Oracle. So Oracle have started this PeopleSoft. Oracle, they have combined together and brought in a cloud product called Oracle Fusion. But before few years, Workday have brought in first cloud HCM product called Workday HCM, and now they were actually the first cloud HCM product. And then they started this, and then they brought very, very good features because PeopleSoft is already a hit. They brought all the hit features into Workday, and also they made this as a very user friendly. So that's how Workday HCM has evolved. Okay. Now they started with Workday HCM, but if you see now, we also have Workday Financials. Okay. They're also managing financials in Workday. So this is kind of a small introduction I wanted to give you, and just wanted to tell you like what is this product and how it got evolved. Okay. Now in Workday HCM, we have multiple products. Okay. We have multiple, let's say, sub modules. We can call it as sub modules. Like we have core HCM, we have talent and performance, we have recruiting, we have payroll. So we have benefits. So we have learning management. So we have multiple sub modules where if you want to go and get a particular application. So when you go and deal any company, like let's say Amazon also have Workday. So when Amazon wants to have this Workday into their particular business, so when Amazon tries to deal with Workday, so Workday with a basic license amount, they try to give an basic product called Workday Core HCM. Okay, because which is kind of a pillar module, which is very base module. Without that module, we don't have any other modules. So they give that license with the core HCM, and if Amazon wants to buy other applications like other modules like time tracking, payroll, or recruiting, so they have to take with the separate licenses. So this is again a very cost effective method, Workday, but definitely it is a worth, because almost if you see that 500 Fortune companies or 100 Fortune companies, almost 40% of companies are using Workday. Okay, and the remaining percentage are combination of Oracle, SAP, and other products, but Workday is the primary leader in HCM right now. Okay, all right, I'll move to the next step where we are actually entering into the Workday HCM, and then there are certain things that you people have to know, which I will try to discuss at the end, because you need to know how the certification program goes. So what are the new features, how Workday releases new features every year. So those are the things that I will try to make you understand. But first we will start with the content. Okay. So first module, or the first basic things that we are going to learn is an core HCM module. If you see HCM core concepts and navigational basics. Okay, so we will always start in, not only me, if you go to any training, or if you even wanted to take training with Workday directly, you cannot take it though. But if you wanted to also take a training through your organization into Workday, Workday also starts with this particular module called Core HCM. Because Core HCM is considered as a very, very, initial module, and also kind of a pillar. So whenever we try to build any building, or huge constructions and all, the pillars has to be strong, right? That way for Workday, core HCM is the pillar. And then only once once you understand all these concepts, once you try to configure everything in Workday in terms of your core HCM task, or kind of an configurations, then only you will be able to build any other product or any other module, or you will be able to implement any other module. Even let's say some new client comes to us, let's say some ABC clients come to us, let's say as a team lead, or as a lead, or as a kind of a project manager for that project. What I will suggest the client is, okay, first we need to implement core HCM, and then we will slowly take up with the other modules. Maybe whatever the modules they have priority in the list, they will try to come with the module list, but we will try to suggest them like what is the sequence of modules that needs to be implemented. Okay. So coming back to the first thing, Workday organization structure. So we all know, like when we generally work in kind of an organizations, or companies and all, we are assigned to a department. Okay, that department is nothing but an organization in this term, and that department is actually a supervisory organization. Okay, so that department is actually a supervisory organization, which is considered as a supervisory organization. And when we say supervisory organization, employees are actually hired in a department. So employees are actually hired in a supervisory organization. Okay. So here we will try to understand how to create a supervisory organization, how to create a subordinate organizations, what are the additional organization types. For example, let's say in your organization, in your department, you wanted to create an additional department. Okay. Let's say it's kind of a sub department. So, but your department name will be the primary department. Let's say HR department will be the primary department, but under HR department, again, you wanted to create kind of an sales or recruiting or hiring or anything like that, then those are nothing but your subordinate organizations. And then if you wanted to create another type of organizations also, we try to create in your supervisory organizations. And organization assignments is something like when you try to hire an employee in a supervisory organization, automatically employees should be assigned with certain things like cost centers or kind of a regions or kind of an certain things which has to be automatically assigned. Nobody has to go and they have to manually assign it, but something has to be done automatically. That's where we come up with something called organization assignments. Previously, when I started my career with Workday, these organization assignments was not available at that time. So whenever we have to go and assign this, we have to always do it manually, which is kind of a painful activity for us. At the same time, to an HR administrator as well. But coming with Workday, so what Workday does is every day or every year it tries to come up with new features, makes flexible to their clients to see that they are able to easily make things easier for the clients. So that's where Workday came up with kind of an organization assignments, and then they have come up, which now is a very flexible thing to assign certain kind of an organization's types to a supervisory organization, which is indirectly linked to an employee. Okay, I'll just try to complete the task or whatever the things that we'll cover for core HCM, and then I'll give a break and then I'll ask in case you have any questions. Okay. All right. Then the next thing is staffing models. Okay, so we all know we have different staffing models. So whenever we hire an employee, we try to hire an employee in a particular kind of a staffing model. So I'll tell you there are two staffing models in any organization in general. In general, if you see, there are always two staffing models. One is job management and one is position management. Okay, in general, a job or a position. So maybe you guys, a question to you guys, like, do you know what is the difference between a job and a position? So generally we try to say that, okay, employee got hired in this position, employee got hired in that particular job and all. But what is the distinction between a job and a position? Any idea?
Yeah, position is something that the org has to take approval, and a position is created within an org, and the job is the job rec via which a candidate gets selected for that position.
Okay, so job is different, job rec is different.
Job,
So
yeah,
even when you create a job rec, you can take a position in it.
yeah,
Yeah.
agree.
So okay. So Sneha, do you want to give a try? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to give a try?
No.
Okay, no problem. So let me explain you. And this concept, a job and a position, you go to any particular, you go to Oracle, you go to SAP, you go to Workday, anywhere this concept is the same. And let me tell you, the concepts are almost the same anywhere, but the only thing is the interface differs. So in Workday, we try to configure these in a different way, in Oracle in a different way, in SAP in a different way, but concept-wise they are same. Okay, so position is nothing but position is almost related to a specific thing. Okay, job is nothing but it's a generic thing. Okay, so we always try to take the decision whether we have to hire an employee in a position or a job based on the department they are working or based on the organization they are working. For example, let's take a generic example. Let's say I want to hire an employee into an IT company. Okay, IT, we are all working in IT itself, right? So let's say there's a TCS company, and then I want to hire an employee in a TCS company in a particular department. That means in a supervisory organization. So that means in IT company, every role in a particular team is very important. Let's say in my team, I have an software engineer, senior software engineer, a test engineer, developer. So every role is important. Okay. In those particular cases, we try to make that as a position. Okay. So in IT company, we will try to hire an employee in a position because that position have a specific functionality. That particular position have a specific role to be filled. Okay, so that will always be a position. Position is always nothing but a specific role. So when it comes to a job is always a generic look. For example, if I go to a shopping mall, if you go to a shopping and then in a shopping mall, there will not be any specific roles to the sales people that are doing it. So their role is just to sell a particular costume. Okay, that can be any type of a costume, but we will not say okay that particular sales consultant is a very kind of a developer, or we don't have any. They don't have any specific roles to it, right? So there they are always generic. Even if you go to a factory employee is always a generic role. They don't have any specific roles. So in that particular thing, we will always create a kind of a job. Okay, so that's a kind of a distinction between a position and a job. And if the client doesn't knows, like whenever we are talking to a client, the client doesn't knows what is a job and what is a position. So we as a consultant needs to explain to the client that, okay, for your organization, we are going to set up a job management. For your organization, for the specific roles that we are seeing in your particular department, we will go with the position. Okay, so that's where we will try to distinguish depending on the organizations that we try to use. Okay, so here we will try to again create both jobs and positions. I'll show you how we can be done, and then we will try to use them. We will try to hire employees both in a job and a position level, and then we will try to differentiate like what is a job, what is a position, what are the characteristics we have in a position, what are the characteristics we have in a job, and how they are useful. Okay, so that's where we will try to understand in the staffing models. And then the module 4 comes something like your jobs and positions. So in jobs and positions, we will try to understand about the job profiles. Okay, so we have something like job profiles, we have job families, we have job family groups and all. So for example, in a particular, what is a job family means? Let's say there is a sales department. Okay, in that particular sales department there are certain sub levels, like when we say subordinates or subgroups and all. In the sales department we have kind of an sub activities. Okay, so we can say okay, he belongs to an on-site sales job family, or he belongs to an off-site sales family, or he belongs to a showroom sales family. So we try to kind of a distinct with that job into kind of a small families, and then we try to attach this to a particular employee, because that will always have a distinction. Okay, so that way we knows that okay, this particular person belongs to this job family and all. And with that, within that job families, we will always try to create job profiles. So that way, for a person who is working in a sales in a showroom or in a kind of a shopping area, we have a different job profiles. For a person who is doing kind of an real estate and then doing the sales, he will have a different job profiles. So that way we will try to create different job profiles, and we will link that to a job family, and that job family will be linked to a job family group. So that means if we have sales department, HR department, finance department and all, so these we will create as different job family groups, and under these we will create individual job families, and under individual job families we will have job profiles. So that way we will try to distinguish, and then we will try to add here. Okay, we will try to create positions and headcount groups and all. So right now there is no headcount groups. Initially there used to be in Workday, but Workday have removed that headcount groups. Now we don't have any headcounts. Okay, but I'll just give you an explanation, like because we know like if at all you're trying to put any experience like 8 years, 10 years and all, but prior to that there used to be headcount. So I'll just give you an explanation, and then you can just answer that in any interviews you face. Okay, now the fifth module is compensation. So compensation is nothing but a salary. So whenever an employee joins any organization, so they have to be paid, right? So here there are, again, in compensation there are two things. One is base compensation and one is advanced compensation. So base compensation module is covered as part of your core HCM, but advanced compensation is again a separate module. Okay, that's again a separate module where you have in-depth calculations. Okay, whenever you want to do any stock kind of a thing, there you will try to patch up with your advanced compensation things and all. But if you want to give a salary to an employee or certain allowances or bonus and all, that you can do it through your base compensation. Okay, so here if you observe, Workday have given this kind of a flexibility, but if the client wants to go to an in-depth level, then Workday says, okay boss, for you have to take a separate license for advanced compensation, so you have to pay. So there is kind of a license things for everything in Workday. So that's where the client will also be kind of thinking in terms of his budget, what all he wanted to get implemented with Workday, and then what all he don't want. So that's where Workday have designed their products in such a manner. So in compensation, we will try to understand the structure. We will try to understand the compensation grades. So we all know, right? In every organization, we have a grade structure. So whenever you are hired into an organization, they will assign to a particular grade to you. In that particular grade, you will have a salary ranges also. Okay, they can say, okay, Barnali belongs to grade C, and Sneha belongs to grade B, and Dhanush belongs to grade F, something like that. So with that particular grade, they always have a salary range, where salary range is like what is the minimum salary, what is the maximum salary, and what is the medium salary. So you have three different distinctions again in the range, and depending on the range you will be assigned. That's where whenever we try to negotiate our salaries, with the companies, they say that okay, this is the range or this is the maximum we can give it to you. If you are asking more, then they'll say okay, this is out of range, so we will not be able to proceed with your candidature. So that's how we try to listen from our HR people, right? So that's where they try to define these grade profiles or kind of ranges within these particular grades. Okay, so then we will try to create packages, we'll try to create salary plans, because every employee should have a salary plan. And then if the employee needs a bonus or kind of an allowances and all, we will also try to create an allowance plans, bonus plans, and then we will try to assign that to an employee. Okay, and then we have kind of an security. Again, we will try to park this segment security related to compensation until unless we go to the next module, because this all can be covered within your security groups. But I'll just try to give you an explanation, and then we will try to implement the segment security in your security groups. And also the compensation eligibility rules. Now let's say your client says that okay, for all the directors working in my organizations, this allowance plan should be automatically assigned. So now my payroll consultant should not assign it manually, but whenever I try to hire an director in my organization, this allowance plan should automatically go and get assigned to him. In that particular cases, we will try to write the eligibility rules. Very, very important. So we'll try to write the eligibility rules, and then we will try to see those plans are automatically getting assigned. Okay. Now, the next module is your security groups. Now we all know, so whenever we join any organization, first thing is, first we need to do some exams. We have to give some exams, tests and all related to the security. They will tell you, okay, you have to read all these things and you have to, confirm these things, or you have to give an exam. So the security in any organization is important. So that way we also have kind of an securities related to Workday, where we will try to create certain security groups, and then we will try to assign certain security groups to the employees. So, and then there are certain division of your security groups, again, like user based, role based, job based, and also I'll try to explain when we are actually trying to see the classes. So what is the distinction and how this can be actually assigned. Okay, and then we have certain policies also. For example, I think Barnali knows more about it. Let's say whenever we are trying to hire an employee, so who is the right person to hire an employee? Or let's say I'm trying to create a salary or add a salary to an employee. So everybody in the organizations can add a salary? No. Like everybody in the HR department can add a salary to an employee? No, because salary is a very confidential area. Okay, only payroll people should have access to it, not HR people or not benefits or not any other department people. So for that, we have to create policies. Okay, and then we have to assign those policies to a particular security groups. Okay, and then those policies are also need to be added related to it. Just give me a moment. Okay, sorry for that. Okay, let me move on to the next page. Okay, business process. So what is this business process? Is this business process is a bit complicated, and then let me tell you one more thing. So whenever we start creating or doing the configurations, we are actually doing the configurations starting with a very easy task, easy steps, And when you go on in depth, like when you complete your supervisory organizations, you feel okay, this is not that complicated. Then you will go towards staffing models, you will feel okay, the bit of complexity have started. Then when you come back to your compensation, then you will feel okay, a bit more complex is being added to it. That way slowly the complexity keeps on adding. So that's where we will train students, seeking that okay, their uh, work or their homework or whatever we give it to them, the task that we give it to them, they complete on time, so that when the actual complexity starts, they know everything what have been covered before, they have already practiced. And then when the actual complexity like business process starts, then they will feel a more comfortable because they already did all the organizations, everything. And then when the big BP starts, then they feel more comfortable. But let's say if you don't do that kind of an work, or if you don't practice before and then you actually jump into BPs, then that will be kind of a movie to you. So you will not understand initially. But if you have done the previous practices, previous sessions, if you understood the previous sessions, then definitely the remaining sessions will be a bit easy for you, because we will be, when the sessions are going uh, on and on, then the complexity also starts with that sessions, with the process, okay, the sequence of classes. So business process, what is the business process means? Like every organization, whenever I hire an employee, there will be certain stages in the hiring process, right? So that means first I need to create a job requisition, then somebody have to post that, then the candidate will go and apply for that job rec, and then so on and so forth. So there will be certain steps and there will be certain approvals also in between. Like for example, let's say I hired an employee, but I need an approval from my director, okay, HR director. So only once the director approves it, then only I'll be able to move to the next step of assigning a compensation or something like that. So that is where your business process will come into the picture. So business process is nothing but your kind of an workflows, step by step process. What step will come initially, what step will be in the second stage, what will be in the third stage, and all. So that's where your business process will come. Okay, so we'll try to understand each and everything in the business process, and then we will also try to practically execute a business process, and then I can show you that. Okay, then we will actually start. So till now, till business processes, we have configured our system. We have made to hire a particular, if at all I need to hire an employee, I need to make sure that a department is available, which is a supervisory organization. I need to see that a position should be available to need to hire an employee in that particular position. I need to see that security groups are available. I need to see that a salary plan is created, an allowance plan is created, and at the same time I need to see that a business process is created in order to hire. So once the all the pre-configured thing is completed, there it comes like your process, like whether you can do a pre-hire process or hire process, or you wanted to transfer, you wanted to promote, you wanted to terminate, anything comes into the transactions involved. And then I'll show you how the transactions are done, and then with the business processes. Okay, all right, so this is where I'll hold on here. Till here, we are trying to cover the core HCM product. From module 9, we are going into the Workday recruiting. So I'll just give a break and then ask you if you guys have any questions so far.
I have.
Yeah.
So for module 7, there are multiple business processes uh, that you spoke about. Is it that in the course you're going to be covering business process, how we process a termination or a hire process, or is it you're going to um, go over the configuration part of it? What is behind the scene? How we set the rules for configuring those business processes?
Definitely. So I'm going to show you how a business process is configured, and only after that configuration is completed, then we will come back to this transactions. Because if I show you a direct transactions, it is where you're actually doing in your job. So that doesn't make any big change for you, right? So what I'll do is I will actually show you how a business process is configured, and I will also try to add certain steps in that business process, like your approval step or your review step and all. And then I will try to show you how an hire employee is done, so that whatever have been configured in your business processes, you will see that whenever you're hiring an employee. So if 3 stages are configured there, you will have to see the 3 stages here in the hire process. So that's where you'll confirm, okay, there you have learned and here you are trying to execute.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay.
And could you
Yeah.
also brush over, like for each module, how do you divide the timings? Like I'm interested in also knowing how many days are we spending on each modules, or how many hours we are spending on each module based on the entire course curriculum.
Yeah, I will explain that in the end, but I can confirm you one thing, that we are trying to spend more time on the core HCM product, because this is where you have to understand the modules, or this is where you have to understand the basics. For example, in Workday recruiting also, we will go through the business process. Okay, so every module, like if you go to Workday payroll, there also you'll have business processes. You'll have the security concepts there also. So you will also have a department concept there. You'll have a pay group concept there. So every module have these concepts in common. So that's where I will try to focus more on core HCM, so that you will understand the basics, you will be perfect in the basics, and then we will start with our recruiting module. And when you see the recruiting module, there again, I will just show you a BP, but again, I will not show you a step-by-step process, because there we will be actually creating a different things. Or whenever it comes to a BP, I will be actually executing a BP. I will open a BP, I'll show you these are the stages, and then I will execute a BP. But again, I will not go back to the basics, saying that, okay, what is a BP, how it is configured and all. So most of the time is, generally our course time will be around 1 month, like 25 to 30 working days, like the session days, whatever it is. And then in that particular time, we will try to like, let's say 10 days for 10 or 12 days will be for core HCM. Then we will go with recruiting. Then we will go with the reporting. Then we have EIB. So all this core curriculum. And then one other point that I want to explain is, in my training, I will not say, okay, these days, and then I'm not in a compulsion to complete within those days. There are certain days in the training where people have only taken like 2 to 3 days only in terms of questions. Okay, because they wanted to get their questions right. They wanted to understand where, if any interviewer asks them, how can they answer. So for that only, we have spent few days in terms of answering their questions, because every module after that, we will have 1 or 2 days only for questions. And then I'll make you to sit in the class and do something in front of me, so that like, if at all you're going into an organization, you will understand how critical. Because as soon as you go into an organization as a configurator, not an administrator, so day one you will get a configuration. So what will be your experience? So that experience, you have to first do it in this training sessions, and then it will be easier for you in your actual working sessions. So that's where, but mostly we will not deal with the days and all. But as the the days or the trainings are progressing, it might take more than 30 days, it can be less than 30 days, like less than means like 28 or 30 days and all. But this course is targeted for a 30 days, 30 hours actually, whatever the hours, because it will be 1 hour per day. So whatever the hours we are going through, it will be around like 30 hours. It can also cross 30 more hours also, because I want my students to be confident enough in terms of learning, completing the course. It's not like complete the course and then leave it, nothing like that. Okay.
My only concern is when we keep it such open-ended, that's good for a
Mhm.
beginner. But by the time we reach the remaining modules, like the end of the modules, it's usually, I've always seen, we just go over the topic, brush through it, and we never go in depth as we go in the initial modules. So that's the reason I was asking, are we allocating any number of days or hours for each module? So roughly we stay to that schedule.
Right. So, yeah, so maybe to answer your question, so we will not jump, or we will not, skip any kind of a thing. So everything will be in detail. If not, you can just stop me and then you can ask me. So that should be there. But again, whatever the topics, or whatever the each and every line that I'm covering here, it will be explained in detail whenever we are going through the topics. Okay. All right. So in terms of time, so I'll just go with the Workday recruiting module. Okay, so Workday recruiting module is another module in Workday HCM, where this is a separate module. So Workday recruiting comes before hiring process. That means before we hire any employee, we have to see that there are certain recruiting stages that we have to go through, and then that's where this workday recruiting comes into the picture. So here again, I'll just give you an overview how this recruiting module is linked to core HCM. Definitely for recruiting module also. For example, if you wanted to have a job requisition created, you need to have a department first. You need to have a position to be created first. You need to have a job profile to be created. You need to have a salary plans to be created. You need to have kind of an allowances and bonuses to be created. So that is where we will try to create all of them before we start the recruiting module. That's where we will try to cover them in core HCM. And when we actually start the recruiting module, then we can directly go create a job requisition, and then we can start to see how the hiring process goes on. Okay, so an overview will be given on the recruiting module. We'll try to understand what is the recruiting technology, what are the aspects that Workday have taken into in terms of making this recruiting module a big hit in terms of Workday. And then what are the capabilities? That means like what are the functionalities? What are the terms that we use? For example, what is the difference between a candidate and an applicant? So what are the terms that we generally use in terms of Workday recruiting will be explained here. And third party integrations will be explained. So will not create any integrations here, but in general, for example, when I work with a client, so what are the approaches the client will have? What are the integrations? Because for example, before when a person or an employee is hired, there will always be a third party kind of a check, or there will be kind of a certain questions that will be asked, and then these third party checks or in exams, let's say these days, if you go to a development company, they're trying to ask to write a code. So how these codes will be there, or how they are written, how they are captured, all these are nothing but integrations. So they will try to hire a third party, and then they will try to make these code writings or kind of a third party check or background check all through an third party. Okay, so now how that third party, because third party is something like a different company, a small consultancy. Now how those things are captured inside Workday is nothing but your integrations. So those integrations related capabilities are explained here. Okay, and then we have something called as tenant, the module 10, security and tenant setup. Tenant is kind of an instance that Workday generally provides. So we will try to analyze the tenant setup. That means before we try to go and do with any recruiting, so we have to do certain tenant level setups. So what are those tenant level setups? So what is the significance of it? Because even let's say if you are giving an interview to any interviewer, if you say that, okay, I've started creating a job requisition, then the interviewer will be just checking with you, or he will be waiting to see if you have done any tenant setups before you create a job requisition. If you say that I've directly created the job requisitions, no, that cannot be happened. You have to do certain pre-level kind of configurations in order to create kind of a job requisitions. So that's where we will try to understand the tenant level setups. And then the security configurations here, we will, for recruiting a person, we need a recruiter kind of an security groups, or we need kind of an interviewer kind of a security group. So we will try to create all the security groups. So again, we are touching the security here. So that means if we already understood security level things in core HCM, then here our the task or explanation will be very easy. So you will easily understand what is a group, what is a policy, what are the things we are trying to understand in terms of security. Okay, and then ad hoc role assignments is something like how to assign a roles to employees. Okay, so that again we will try to understand in our security part in core HCM, but here we will try to understand the roles that are related to the recruitment part. Okay, there are certain additional roles that we need to have to be created. So what are they is where we will try to understand in ad hoc role assignments. Okay, so then in the module 11, we are actually starting the configuration in the recruiting by creating questions or job application question. That means, let's say whenever a person is getting hired, or whenever he applied for any particular job requisition, he will be asked certain questions. For example, do you have a valid US visa? Or are you eligible to work in this particular state in this country? Or are you ready to travel? Okay, so these are certain questions that they ask. So for that, we have to create certain questions, and then questionnaires are kind of a grouping of your questions into one questionnaire, and then posting their questionnaires or adding those questionnaires, and then configuring your job profiles. All this will be part of your questions in terms of your job requisitions. Okay. At the same time, like you are creating a job requisitions, then adding a questionnaire to a job requisitions, adding different things at your job requisition template. All these things will be explained in terms of requisitions. Okay, so let's say you have created a requisitions. Now you need to post a requisitions. In general, where we will post, either in LinkedIn or let's say in job groups or within our company applications, company websites and all, right? That's where we will try to understand how a job posting will be done. And then we will try to see the career sites and job applications. So here we will try to understand what are the sources. Like for example, if you are trying to post in LinkedIn, or if you are trying to post in Indeed, so you have to pay, you have to have some kind of a license, okay, where you will try to pay some kind of an amount. So there, all those kind of configurations can be created in this career sites. Okay, so we will try to understand what is an internal career site, what is an external career site. We'll try to create those career sites, and then we will try to add it to the relevant configurations that we have already created. Okay, then comes your recruiting business processes. So as I told you, business process is a kind of a concept where if you go to any module, you will have that business process. You go to any module, you have security. You'll go to any module in Workday, you will have those kind of an organization related things. So that's where we will try to be very perfect there in core HCM. And when you come here, it will be kind of a cakewalk. Okay, so here we will try to understand what are the processes that we need to create. For example, we have job application business process, we have post job business process, we have job requisition business process. So there are certain business processes. Okay, there are a list of BPs that we need to configure in recruiting. So we will try to see all those business processes. We'll try to configure them practically in the system, and then we will try to run the process. Okay, let me move on. So that's where your job applications, and then you have your prospects, candidates. What are the differences? What is an evergreen requisition? What we generally do with a normal requisition and an evergreen requisition. When we use an evergreen requisitions, these kind of a things we will try to discuss. Okay, so these are all the activities that we are going to do in our, finally, when your recruiting is done, like once you have done everything, the next process is your hiring process. Hiring process, again, it's part of your core HCM, because hire business process is part of your core HCM. Okay, yeah, so let me take a small break here and then ask you if you have any questions on recruiting.
My question is again back to, I'm a little bit worried in sense of 30 hours allocated for a training with so many topics. So I'm not very clear how much are we going to spend time on, just to get a tentative understanding of uh, roughly how much time we are going to get through. Because if we want to go in depth with each topic, in each topic is in itself a big area. But if we just rush through the understanding, if anyone has an understanding of the business area and they go over the training, they can catch it. So I still want to understand a little better that how much time are we going to spend on each module, because there are lots of uh, category that you are covering, and how are we going to manage it in 30 hours, because then it
So
also is associated with the practice.
yeah, so practice is something like is what it will be taken care from your side, but from the classes perspective, because let's say we will have 5 classes, 5 hours per week. Okay, so mostly we may not have Saturdays and Sundays until unless we want to cover something which is very important, which is kind of a continuation and all, and maybe like Saturdays and Sundays will be kind of in practice sessions for the students. Okay, so again, coming back to the same answer, like same question, same answer. So we will be trying to cover things. We have 1 hour time. So in 1 hour time, we will be trying to cover maximum. And then if we cannot cover a particular topic or a particular thing that we cannot do, we will take an extra time. So that's where I'm saying it's not confined to 30 hours. The time might increase, or the time might be somewhere around 30 hours. But we will try to cover the topics, whatever we have, and whatever the line item that I'm trying to discuss. Because once we start with the training, so you haven't seen my training approach, right? So once you see the training approach, maybe like for a week or 2 weeks, then you'll try to understand, okay, this is how we generally try to cover things. So that's where I'm also trying to cover, and then that's how it is. But we will try to cover everything within 30 hours, or if at all it's not covered, we will take more time also. But whatever is being in this course content, we will cover everything. That is where I cannot tell you like how depth we are covering, because basically my student always at the end of the session say that they are actually compromised, like they are actually satisfied with whatever the depth that I have gone through. And let me give you an example, like when you say depth and trainings and all. So now I'm saying like for core HCM and recruiting and the other things, we are giving 30 days. Let me tell you, when we took a Workday training, okay, now I'm completely not aware of what is Workday, how the screen looks like, whatever it is. So I'm from an Oracle background. Let's say this happened like 10, 12 years back. So when we started with the training, our training was like 3 days. Okay, so we got covered with core HCM, we got covered with security, we got covered with business processes, everything, and even reporting, calculated fields, iLoads, whatever the next topics will come up, EIBs, everything in 3 days. Okay, and on fourth day, we have a practice session. On the fifth day, we have a certification exam. Okay, so whatever we have learned in 3 days, we have to execute it. Okay, it's not like 1 hour per day. So we used to sit from 9 o'clock till 1 o'clock, 1 hour break for lunch, and then 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock. That's the only timeline. So hardly we spent like around like 8 hours, I think like 8 to 10 hours. Okay, in terms of discussion, the trainer tells us we have to practice immediately a kind of a topic, and again the second topic comes up. It's something like that. So on fifth day, we have given the exam and we got our certifications. Okay, so it's not like how much depth we are going, it's like how we are understanding this particular software, how we are understanding this particular application. So that's the main thing in these kind of an applications that we are dealing with. Make any sense, Barnali?
Okay, I'll go with your words.
Yeah. So for now, I can only tell that because I cannot open my application and then I cannot start that things, right? So maybe like once you sit in my sessions initially, then you'll understand how we are actually going through things. Okay. All right. Any questions from your side, Sneha?
Dhanush. All good.
Okay. Fine. So the next module is reporting. Okay. So reporting is again a very important topic. So why it is an important topic means, so as let's say in my case, I'm actually an implementer. That means I'm doing configurations. Let's say I'm creating 10 organizations. Okay. I'm hiring 20 employees in those 10 organizations. I'm creating 100 positions. So I'm going to each and every task, and then I say, okay, create supervisory organization, and then I'm creating a supervisory organization, I'm creating a job. So I'm going inside a page, okay, to do all these things. But do you think a person like who is sitting at a director level or a vice president level, so let's say the vice president wants to know, okay, I just want to know like how many employees are there in the HR department in my organization. So he wants to know that. Okay, now for a vice president to know that, so let's say that question came to an configurator or implementer like me. Okay, so if the person wants to know that, then like if he asks me as an implementer, then do you think that I'm going to create an user in Workday and then I'll say, okay, go to that particular task, go to that particular organization and then see how many employees are there? I cannot do that, right? Because he's a vice president, so he has so many other responsibilities, and then I cannot give him a Workday page and then tell him that, okay, go, and I cannot navigate him. So for that reasons, the reporting came into the picture. Okay, for example, let's say anything. For example, you want to see your pay slips. Okay, pay slip is nothing but a report. Okay, where you will see, okay, how many days you have worked, so what is your basic, what is your allowance, what are your bonus, what is the amount before tax, what is the amount after tax. So that's a report. You're going through a particular report, a document or a report. So that is where we will try to create reports, because at the end of the day, the business will only be viewing the reports. They are not at all interested, 0% interest in your configuration. So if the report is right, whatever you have configured is right. Okay, If the report is wrong, there might be some kind of an calculations that are done wrong in the report, but they will think that whatever the configuration is there in the Workday HCM is wrong. Okay, so that important is your reporting. So here we will try to understand what are the different reporting levels we have in the in Workday HCM. So we have different types of report. We have simple, advanced, you have matrix report, you have different types of a report. But for our understanding, because we are actually trying to learn Workday from a very base knowledge side, so for us, what is important in order to create, like whenever somebody, your manager asks you to create a report to get the details of 20 employees who are nothing but individual contributors whose salary is more than like 20,000 USD per month, kind of an, so there will be certain filters, kind of, and certain things and all, right? So when they ask you, you need to know like what type of a report you need to build in that. So that's where we will try to understand the types of reports, the overview of the reporting. So what are the calculations that we can do, how to add a filter, how to add parameters, how to schedule a report. Okay, these are all the basic things of a reporting. Okay, now let's say your HR manager comes to you, you means like to a consultant, Workday consultant, and says that, okay, Sneha, just give me a report every Monday morning. It has to be in my Workday inbox. Like I need to understand what are the, how many employees have been hired last week. So I need a report. I don't want to ask you every time that give me this report, give me this report. That has to be automatically coming to my Outlook or to my Workday inbox. So that's where we will try to create a report, and then we will schedule a report saying that every Monday morning, 9 a.m., this report has to be in the particular user's inbox. Okay, so that's where we will be trying to schedule a report. The same way we will be trying to understand the objects. See, in every report is nothing but a collection of objects. Okay, worker, an employee is an object, a position is an object, a job is an object, a salary component is an object, a bonus is an object. So everything is an object. So here we will try to understand what are the primary objects and what are the secondary objects, and how these objects are can be created, or how these objects can be viewed within a report. Okay, and sorry, and then comes your calculated fields. Okay, so now let me tell you, Workday gives you so many fields. Like for example, if you wanted to add like employee first name, last name, date of birth, hire date, salary, all these things will be given to you by Workday. We don't need to worry about that. But let's say if your client asks that, okay, I wanted to have a field where in the hire date, for example, if at all, if anybody says that what is the hire date of some ABC, what we will say, okay, 1st January 2024. Okay, but now your client says that, okay, I wanted to get only the year part of that particular hire date, I don't want to have a date and a month. So that part will not be given to you by Workday. Workday will give you a particular field which have all these three kind of an instances, like day, month, and year. Now your client says that I need only the year. Okay, in that case, you have to create a calculated field, okay, which is also called as a custom field. So those calculated fields here in Workday, we'll try to create those calculated fields. We'll understand what are the different types of calculated fields we have, how we can create a calculated field, what are the functions we have to use in terms of a calculated field. Okay, so we'll try to go through each and every calculated field functions, and then I can explain you that. Okay, and after that we will come back to the enterprise interface builder, which is an EIB. Okay, so what is an EIB means? For example, let's say Barnali is working on a project, and then the client says that, okay, Barnali, now we are trying to acquire another organization, another company, and then we are going to merge with our company. Now there are, like, let's say like 1,000 employees working in that organization. I want all those 1,000 employees to be inside our Workday because we are already merging. Okay, now what Barnali will do is, will she manually go and hire one person, like all the 1,000 employees? It will be a very tedious task. If Barnali is only working on that particular task, it will be like 3 weeks, 4 weeks to hire individual employees. So how many weeks she will take in order to hire like 1,000 employees into Workday? That will be a huge task, right? That's where Workday came up with a tool or kind of an application called as EIB. Okay, EIB is nothing but it is kind of a mass uploads. Now, if Barnali knows, okay, there is an EIB, and then we can hire 1,000 employees through an EIB in one go. If she knows that, then those 1,000 employees can be loaded or hired into Workday, let's say in 15 minutes, or let's say in half an hour. Instead of taking multiple weeks, we can do it in half an hour. That's where this EIB will come into the picture. We use this EIB quite frequently in our day-to-day business, because somewhere, if at all, we have to do a bulk load. For example, I have to create, let's say, like 20 job requisitions. So if I go to an individual job requisition, create job requisition, then give the characteristics, all these things, it will take one day for me to create 20 job requisitions. And it's a very kind of a tedious task. It's kind of a very, complicated task. Like everywhere you have to go, you have to give the properties for everything. But if you use EIB, let's say in 10 minutes, you can create 20 job requisitions. Okay, that's how important it is. So we will try to understand, we will practically create EIBs, and we will try to load EIBs in terms of how it works and all. And then I'll show you. Okay, I can take like 2 to 3 examples, and then I'll show you how we can do that. Okay, and then there is an inbound EIB and there is an outbound EIB. So what is inbound EIB means? The same example. If you are merging with a different company and if you are trying to get the data from outside into Workday, that is called inbound, like inside Workday inbound. Okay, and if you are moving some data from Workday to some third party outside, okay, that is called outbound integration. Okay, but for this EIB, your inbound integration is famous. For example, there are multiple integrations, so we are not going through all the integrations. But for EIB, the inbound integration is famous. But for outbound integrations, we use a different integration tool, not EIB. We say different. We have studios, we have different other things, so we use them, but not EIB. So I can give you a normal explanation about your outbound integration, but for inbound integration, I'll just give you a practical examples. Okay. Now the next module is core connector. Core connector is again one more integration related thing. So this core connector is where we generally use in terms of uh, not extracting, importing the data. Like we are trying to move the data from Workday to any third party. Just like outbound EIB, we use core connectors in order to move the data from Workday to some third party. Okay, so that's where we will try to understand how this core connector can be used. This also, core connector is again an inbound, outbound, but this is not famous for inbound, this is famous for outbound. So here I'll just try to explain, because for moving data into a third party, we need to have those IDs of a third party, we need to have an connections, everything. So we cannot build that in this training instances. So explanation will be given on these core connectors. But even in your interviews, you can ignore core connectors, because core connectors is a very, very old tool and they are rarely used. These days, we are using Workday Studios, okay, which is, again, if you wanted to learn Workday Studios, you need to learn Java and all. So that's where we are not covering in this content, but Studios is a different area, okay. And the last thing is nothing but iLoads. iLoads is not practically being used by the support people, but let's say if at all you're implementing a new project, then we generally use iLoads, because iLoads access is given only to the implementers, not to the people who are supporting Workday application. People who are implementing Workday from the scratch, that is where iLoads are used. And then we will also try to learn something like object transporter. For example, within Workday, we have multiple instances, multiple tenants. We have prod tenant, we have sandbox, we have implementation tenants. So let's say you created a report in one particular tenant, and now you have to create the same report in another tenant. Now, in general, what people will do is they go to that tenant and again they'll start creating a report. But let's say if a report have like 30 fields or 25 fields, so it will take at least like half an hour time here, half an hour time there. But we can use something like object transporter, where we can transport this report into a different tenant directly, and that will be done, let's say, in 3 minutes, 4 minutes, max 5 minutes. So we know that the time interval, right? 30 minutes and 5 minutes. So that's where this object transporters, and this is again a very, very important tool. And mostly people will not tell you, the training departments will not tell you this, but this is where will also be covered. I can also show you this. Okay. So this is where we are ending our content with all those aspects. So let me take a break and then ask you if you have any questions. Barnali, Sneha, any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Mhm.
Will this training help to get job for beginners like me?
Yes, definitely. Because here you are trying to learn two modules. For example, when we have like I've been training since like 10 years. So initially I used to train only on one module like core HCM, then reporting and all. At that time, people used to get jobs. Okay, very easily. But after that, slowly, when the when the years has been passed, now the interviews are also looking. The companies are also looking for multi-module competency. So if you say that yes, I have like experience, you'll not say any training, right? You'll say experience only, and
Yeah.
then that is how I will make you to give a very good experience in terms of when you are putting your profile. So if you say I have experience in core HCM and recruitment as well as doing this EIBs, then reporting, then kind of in security and all, definitely you are having competencies in multiple areas. You are not stick to one area, not one module, multiple modules. Then definitely you will definitely have an edge over others who are putting experience saying that they have Workday HCM experience. Okay, so that's where we are trying to put all these things in a course content where we wanted to get the students jobs. And definitely you can discuss with Naveen also. Many of our students got job because of having multiple competences. And let me tell you, for learning Workday, you don't need to have any prerequisite. Learning Workday HCM. For example, if you want to learn Workday financials, then you need to have a prerequisite, like you need to know something like accountings or something on that financials part. But for HCM, anybody can start. Okay, I know like people from BCom or from commerce side or from finance side also came, done this course, and then they are working happily in Workday.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and then there is one more part that is called as Workday releases. So Workday also tries to bring new features onto the table. So anybody, any customer who is working on Workday, they will get new features on weekly wise, as well as there are two major releases in a year. One is in the month of March and one is in the month of September. Okay, so what Workday is to enhance their product, they releases their features, and for that we need to go through the features. There will be a report that we need to download, and then we need to go through the features. We have to explain to our customers that these are the features that were brought by Workday, released by Workday, and can we go and implement those features. So they can be automatically released. They can be, configuration related, where we need to set up something and then we need to test. So that's kind of a cycle in every customer. For every customer, this is kind of a release cycles that will be there, and that can also be copied, that can also be covered at the end of the content, because these are kind of a questions where interviews are bringing these days in order to evaluate whether the person is actually from an experienced background or from a training background. So these real-time things or real-time questions or topics will also be covered.
Okay.
So
All
are
right.
we going to get
Yeah.
a tenant to practice, and for how long?
Yeah, so that you would definitely get an into practice, because without practice, there's no point of training. That you need to discuss with Naveen, because like tenant part and all will be taken care by him.
Okay.
Okay, all right. I feel like I don't hear any other questions. So thank you for joining. I hope I have answered all your questions, and see you soon in our sessions. Okay,
Usually, what would be the timings for the sessions on a, because it is a time gap, right?
right,
Uh,
right.
India, US, I
So
see Sneha is also from US, so is it going to
Okay.
be like evening or morning sessions?
that again, we haven't decided, because we have multiple students enrolling for Workday. So once we start a batch, so we will try to discuss with each and every person. And then we have a multi-country students also. So we will confirm the timings. If there are only US students, then we will be sticking to a particular time which is comfortable for US. If not, then we will just inform. So we will inform, we will tell you, we will take your acknowledgement, and then we will start accordingly.
Okay. And one more thing, like I know I'm repeatedly asking this because I have even taken certain training
Mm-hmm.
online on workday driven training
Mm-hmm.
on calculated fields and all, and it was super fast for me to go through because practical work experiences did not allow me to take it just at a tropical level. I kept
Mm-hmm.
asking on a deeper level, and it was too fast for me to cover in 3 days about calculated fields. And that's why I just want to understand in case we have any questions later on after the course is done, what kind of availability we have from your end to clarify our doubts.
See, generally, when the course is completed, so we will give a gap of 1 week to the students, and then we will schedule one doubt session. There will be a doubt session like every day, but after completing also there will be doubt session, and apart from that, so that will be kind of an online session, doubt sessions.
Mhm.
So apart from that, if you still have questions, then mail communication can be done.
Okay.
You can ask questions in an email that will be sent to Naveen, and Naveen will forward me, and then I'll give the answers through email, and then it will come back to you. But yes, your questions will be answered even after the training is done. Like after 6 months, also you can ask your questions.
Thanks.
Okay. So I think I have one more appointment. So I'll just uh, stop it here, and we'll see you soon then.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks
Okay.
for the
Thank you, and
Thank
have a
you.
nice day. Yeah. Bye bye.
have a good day. Bye.